Hello humans! Hello humans! January 2nd, a little after 9 in the morning. Another long drive. We're going to discuss zeitgeist, the emotional tone of the times. The emotional tone for any decade is pretty much set by the third year of that decade. So in 1923, we've established the Roaring Twenties. By 1933, we had established the Depression as the tone, so we went from a boom to a bust. That also had been replicated by 1913 when we had the Federal Reserve come on in, and then shortly after it had gotten into all kinds of problems. And so the teens, the 1913 through, or 1910 through 1920, was a period of ups and downs, no stability. They were introducing their fiat currency. The real money of gold and silver was being shifted and maneuvered away, and so the tone for the next, for several hundred years, for the 100 years following that, up until now, had been set by 1913, and it had translated through. Now, every single decade, we get to the third year of the decade, and we can pretty much, by the end of that third year, we can pretty much guess as to, we should have it labeled, right? So everybody should have a general consensus as to what's going on. The Roaring Twenties, the label for that begins appearing in that third decade, or third year in the decade, and then grows through that point as we get into Prohibition and all of the other problems that we encountered in that decade. Now, 2023 is going to be the labeling year for our current decade, and we know it's already pretty strange decade here, but I think we'll see 2023 as the revealing, as the other aspect of the Great Awakening. So you can go and ferret out all the information and say, aha, all these people colluded, they conspired, and they did this evil deed. And but you would have to be awake to notice that something wasn't right, it didn't jive with your understanding of reality, and so you would go and hunt, and you would come up with the data and make your conclusion, and draw that conclusion out, and say, okay, there was a conspiracy here, and these people did this. Now, there's another part of that, and that is a revealing. So, if the other aspect of it is you can be awakened by being basically slapped in the mind by an overwhelming, non-disputed, consensus-supported set of facts. So we have now a very large population of normies that is very disturbed because they can feel the consensus reality slipping away. They are not awake yet, so they're not looking for that new reality, and in effect, they're waiting for the consensus to come along and plop that reality down for them to consume. These guys are basically consumers at that level, right? They're not your content creator. Now, I think 2023 will have great revealing in it that will totally unsettle the last of the normies' understanding of things, as in terms of the solidity of the old paradigm. So I think that 2023 will have the solidity of the old paradigm disappear. The normies will be left in with a huge world of hurt because they won't be able to figure out anything. They won't have a solid peg for their reality. And we will get into this decade and we'll label it and there will be great change in this decade in ways that we have not seen for hundreds and hundreds of years, really. Probably since before the problems that arose in Europe in the mid 1800s, okay? So we're going to see something at least 250 years, if not longer, in terms of the zeitgeist change. Now, this is occurring because of the nature of the Great War that we're in. And this is truly the Great War. Now, what's going on now is a culmination of many different cycles. There's all these different cycles that are going through the planet naturally, but there's also these cycles that are going through humanity. One of these cycles has been the battle between the Khazarian Empire and the Russian Empire, and the Rus people, between the Khazars and the Rus. Now, Russia is fighting Ukraine. Ukraine is Khazaria. It's occupied by the WEF. Most of the Western, what we call Western liberal republics, are also occupied by the WEF and are tools of the WEF. What we are having here now, though, is a culmination battle in a very long-running, multi-hundred-year war. And that is that our current war is just a battle in a longer-running struggle. Every time, so over history, Russia has been repeatedly attacked, and they've tried to take down Russia and take down the Rus people. The WEF has. They've done it they always use proxy countries to do it, except now we're at the very end, and they have to use all the proxy countries to do it, and it's failing. It's failing because the proxy countries, they're not behind the WEF. They don't want to go and destroy the Russians. There's nothing in it for them. They don't have a hatred of the Russians. There's just none of this multi-hundred-year animosity and revenge, retribution, etc. For the proxy countries, the people in the proxy countries. So NATO is attacking Russia because NATO is NATO and it's under the control of the WEF. And the WEF said, go attack Russia. And these people are slaves of their system. So our current situation is, in 2023, we're going to see the defeat of the WEF. We'll see the defeat of the Ukraine, and we will see the defeat of the World Economic Forum. We'll see the defeat of the Khazarian Empire that left Khazaria and infiltrated all of the Western republics and currently controls Canada, the United States, New Zealand, Australia, to a certain extent India, China, all of these kind of places, right? They're all controlled by the mother WEFers. And we will see them defeated in 2023. The defeat will be visible here in 2023, but it won't be complete in 2023. We will have much to do to examine and consolidate our victory over the WEF, in that we'll have to root out all the little WEF agents. We're going to have to undo all of the stuff they've got put in place. These are nasty people. They have, they'll leave sleepers behind. They will have revenge attacks for their defeat. Many of them know they're being defeated. It's going to be really, really, really weird. We're going to have a lot of people that will exit the planet. They'll commit suicide. They'll be assassinated, or it will be accidents. And that there will be waves of this that will occur in the process of defeating the WEF. Now, the defeat is certain. They've already lost. We just have to play out the rest of the acts in this battle. So we know that they are going to lose, and through their loss, expose all of the corrupted history. And then all of the winners, we're going to have work for decades and decades and decades trying to recover and rebuild a sense of real history absent the WEF and they're fucking around with it. So now understand what's going to happen here, because the great revealing to the normies will shock a lot of the normies out of their acceptance of this unsteady state society that we live in, and then they will be seeking to have a steady state society, and we will all be seeking to build it, but we're going to have a very, very, very difficult time. And we are going to have to basically go through the same level of social energetics and upheaval that overtook China in the Cultural Revolution, because we have to have a cultural revolution in order that the WEF might be completely defeated. So right now in the United States, in every college, most of all employees are Mother WEFer agents. Okay, all of the academics, all of the professors, all of the people that teach, all the people that grade, or give out the grades, all the administrators and stuff, all of these individuals are Mother WEFers, and they will have to be removed from the educational institution because, one, the professors do not teach facts. They don't teach children. They indoctrinate into the Mother WEFers' view of reality, and that must go. That Mother WEFer view of reality is so far skewed from actual reality that it has cost humanity greatly for many centuries now, as we've lived with this bogus idea, the bogus science, all the fuzzy-headed, fuzzy thinking coming out of people like Einstein and Shlomo Freud. These guys have polluted our scientific understanding of the world, and all that has to go. So we have to rebuild the chemistry department, the physics department, the math departments, astronomy. Every single solid science must be rebuilt in every single educational institution because it is polluted with the Mother WEFers infiltrated, progressive, deluded instructors. Okay, these mind control people that go in and instruct the children for mind control. So they're not really teaching them to think. They're not teaching them a view of reality that is solid and pertinent and factual. They're teaching them gender studies and how to queer your mind and all this kind of stuff, none of which is going to do them any good from this point on. Because see, here's where we're at. This is where the match hits the paper, all right? And it's the paper currencies are going to die. As that occurs, we will no longer have the illusionary luxury of affording gender studies and queer your mind stuff, all of this kind of stuff. We won't be able to afford it because we're going to be into the Depression in a really solid, very fast way here, because it will be the end of the system, not simply the system rejiggering itself to harvest from the populace. This is not that kind of a situation. As all the banks fail, they will take out the power that is powering all of the Western republics' governments that are being used by the WEF to try and take down Russia and totally control the planet. So it's not going to happen that the WEF is going to totally control the planet and end up owning it all. Russia is not going to be taken down. NATO will dissolve. The European Union will break up. Mother WEFers will be arrested. None of this will necessarily happen this year, but every part of it will begin happening this year as we proceed with these next phases of the Great Revealing and this Great War. So as the banks fail and as the governments fail, we won't be able to afford the luxury of a military-industrial complex. We won't be able to afford the luxury of a corrupt judiciary or a corrupt political structure or a corrupt intelligence gathering organizations. And we will desperately need real functioning institutions that do those things. Because along in the way here, we're going to run into our exposure of information about the space aliens, everybody's going to freak at all levels for a long time, and we will have to react to it and do something about it because of external situation. That is to say, space aliens or their probes coming to talk to us, or check us out at least. And so in this case, we're going to be in a entirely different kind of a world from that point forward. So I think 2023 is going to be our trigger year. We've reached the precipice. We're going to fall off of it this year. The social order is going to collapse this year, which it must collapse, right? We have to rebuild. And that's what we've got to get across. The normies are thinking that, oh, well, we'll recover, we'll go back, right? And it'll be as it was. And that's not going to happen. It won't ever be as it was. That was the Great Reset battle by the WEF, them trying to move us into the Great Reset. They have to wipe out their banking system in order to get us into the central bank digital currency. We won't accept that. They will have, by that time, totally destroyed what remains of their banking system. It's almost gone now. And we will rebuild something else without them. Without that banking system, Klaus Schwab and the Mother Weffers have no power. They if they can't bribe and create money to pay you, if they've got to pay you with gold and stuff, they're really fucked. And we won't have to pay attention to them anymore, and the world will become a lot more distributed, decentralized, and we can think of it as like organic at that level, right? Things will just originate as they should, as opposed to being directed by this hidden hand that's been pushing on us for hundreds of years. We actually find evidence that there's been ongoing series of political ups and downs, empires created, all of this kind of stuff at the direction of some hidden hand, and that this has been going on for probably about 6,000 years. So we're at the end of a major cycle that way. This is also the shift into the age of Aquarius, and in so shifting, we're going to undo stuff that had been put on us in the age of Taurus. So major energetic shifts and changes here on the planet, and at the end of 2023 we won't be in a world that resembles what we were in 2 days ago. It'll be very radically different, and all this will happen in basically a year. It's going to be an extremely packed with stuff year. It's going to be one of those years where decades are happening every other week in terms of changes and this kind of thing. It'll really get rolling once we get into, well, it's already going to start in January, but I mean, we'll get larger amounts, an amplification of the emotional energies by the nature of the normies going into a revealing process that will pick up within spring and continue on through the rest of the year. So March, April, we'll start getting into these blooms of awakening, and where we're going to get large crowds of people that will be reacting because they will become awake to all of this. And so becoming awake to the election theft in Brazil led to the state of the Brazilian people at this moment. Now, there is no institutional support in the United States, or Brazil for that matter, for overturning elections. All right? There is no institutional support. All the institutions are owned by the WEF, and they don't want us to think about election theft. They want to keep owning us with the way that they do the elections, which is they select the person and put your vote behind them, and if you don't vote for them, they will create 2 or 3 ballots to outweigh you. And that's just the way that the Mother Weffers, the progressives, do things. Okay, so the progressives are communists, and that is a pejorative term, in my opinion. Progressive, I mean. So, 2023 going to be filled with stuff, Maybe we'll get the actual revealing and the input of the space aliens this year. That'd be very fun to have that appear. If so, that'll probably be July and August period. And 2023 is going to have the collapse of the financial system. Now, the financial system is going to go down in episodes. So there would be an episode and there'd be a lot of investor loss. So we've lost like $18 trillion in investments. Well, where did that $18 trillion go? You know, this is a dual, a double entry kind of a bookkeeping system. So somebody's got to have had the $18 trillion. But there is that disappearance by virtue of, quote, assets being valued less. Now, 2023, we're going to redo all of this. So everything that we used to think of as assets is no longer an asset. So right now, people are stealing food out of grocery stores, right? They're not stealing iPhones out here in the West Coast, maybe down San Francisco or someplace, you know. But here, people are stealing food because that's what they need. They're stealing toilet paper because that's what they need. They don't need a new iPhone and all this kind of stuff. So we're in that revaluation process right now as this social order continues in its collapse. We are rebuilding concurrently. There are people out there doing stuff all over. And you're just not going to be able to see any of that until enough of the existing system collapses around us, and then and basically we can get the mother weffers out of the way. So right now there's huge impediments to doing anything because the mother weffers don't want anybody to be an individual entrepreneur. They only want large organizations that they control to hire everybody and everybody to be a slave. They don't want anybody to have the freedom to create their own job, create their own business, or any of this. There are people doing this now, but they've got to keep their heads down or the state's going to come along and smack the crap out of them. That will change over these next 12 months. That will lose the power of the mother weft to exert itself through its proxies into and control the Western liberal republics. So this could be, now also we've got the banking collapse, so everybody's got to go through that. It's going to be episodic, so it'll be, there'll be little periods where it'll sort of recover for a bit, and then it'll collapse even further. And sort of recover for a little bit, a couple of months later, and then collapse even further. Up to the point that we hit this giant wall, and that's when the derivatives get repudiated. So at some point, all of the mega quadrillion derivative, quote, market will cease to exist as it comes under increasing pressure, which it's under pressure now. The banks are really freaking out about it in Europe. They're freaking out about it in Asia. Maybe they're freaking out about it here, but we have yet to see it because, of course, the mother weffers control all of our inputs, right? They control all of the mainstream media, so we're not seeing anything at all about the derivative crises that's overtaking the world now. At some point, this derivative crises will go from being percolating in the background to blowing the top off the pot. The contents will empty, and then that pot will simply burn itself up and cease to exist. When that does, we could expect, it's a guess, all right, because no one really knows. The derivatives are such an obscure, opaque, hidden structure that no one really knows the notions or nominal amounts involved. And so it might be that for every dollar that we see in circulation within the Federal Reserve System now, there might be $500 or $2 trillion in derivatives also in that system that's not showing up. We have no way of knowing. When it does go, though, the derivatives are going to take out a big chunk of the Federal Reserve System. These two systems are interoperable. One is based on the other. The derivatives are based on the Federal Reserve System. They are interoperable at many different levels, and when that interoperability fails, that is to say, when the derivatives suddenly have no value and all these institutions, including cities, countries, councils, NGOs, all different kinds of organizations are deep in this derivative mess. When the derivatives crap out here, they will crap out, they'll go along, and then you'll hear a few words about derivatives in some of the leading journalists, right? Not the mainstream media shit. And these leading journalists will be concerned about the derivatives. You'll get some little warning, and then probably the next week there will be a giant derivative crash, and then everybody will freak out. But it won't be the derivative crash. It'll just be a giant derivative crash that will get your attention. And then, as I say, maybe it'll take a month after that, maybe 3 weeks. It's just going to be hard to predict this sort of thing. And then you'll have the big one, right? And it'll be the whole banking system will take a giant shit of derivatives and will lie there exhausted, emaciated, and showing that the whole system is cancerous and corrupt and is failing. At that point, all bets are off, right? So at that point, government starts failing. They won't be able to pay people meaningfully. People just won't show up. They won't work. They won't want to work. They won't do stuff. They might even work counter to that agency. They might be even so irritated at it that they start doing things against the agency that they, surreptitiously, right? Sabotage. It's going to be that kind of a weird, goofy situation that we've got all of this. I've got a whole sack there. I don't have to do this, I guess. Anyway, so it's going to be quite the strange situation as we go forward into 2023 here, and experience the breakdown of stuff, right? This will be episodic, and so it's not going to be a steady breakdown. There will be episodes. These episodes will also affect things like supply chains and all of that. At some point, though, the derivative mass exploding will affect everything, because the derivatives are used at one level as a backstop for funding sources for trade issues, like in terms of, funding trade deals to, ship corn around, that kind of thing. And so we're going to get into a very strange situation indeed as we proceed through the year and encounter the degradation and the collapse of the structure that the WEF has put up. Now, so this is not civilization collapsing, right? These are the overlays, the control mechanisms that the mother WEFers have put on civilization for hundreds and hundreds of years. So the mother WEFers are the Freemasons. The mother WEFers are the High Jewish Council. The mother WEFers are the CIA. They are all the intelligence agencies. They're infiltrated in all of this stuff, and they exist at this layer of abstraction that is this connection between all of themselves and their, quote, official duties that they have been placed into. Bear in mind, none of them got their jobs legitimately. None of them are qualified. They've just been placed there by corruption and the ability to print money to bribe people. So if I could print as much money as I wanted, I could take over the whole planet. I could just start bribing people. If everybody accepted my money, my currency, I could just start bribing people to do what I want. They would do what I want, and then I would end up owning the world. And this is basically why we have Klaus Schwab, is because we have a private Western central banking system. Without that, Klaus Schwab can't exist. If he wants to bribe someone, he's going to have to use real assets, not shit he creates out of paper. And this is where we're at. It's the end of the paper system. The 2023 is going to be huge, giant. It's not going to just like slip under the calendar and have us all think, oh, okay, hey, now we're in 2024. Boy, 2023 was just a nothing burger. Nope, not gonna be that way. we're looking at some serious damn change here all through the year. As I say, the episodic nature of it is such that we can look for hints as to when the next episode's going to occur and where it will occur and so on. And at the moment, I'm looking in the European banking system and the derivative markets because there's hints that we're going to get our first flash crash within both of those. And there'll be these flash crashes, they'll recover, but they'll recover to a lower level, and then we'll get another one and another one and another one, each time recovering to a lower high. And who knows how many of these episodes we will be able to sustain before the entire affected structure within that crash, within that flash crash, goes. So at some point, the flash crashes actually add up to a meaningful event, right? And they cause damage. And so we'll see how long, but it's going to be this year, and I think we'll start seeing some of it fairly quick, like this in the month of January. So I'm not really looking at 2023 as a giant political year, although there is, and there's going to be all kinds of political stuff that goes on. This is not really my focus at the moment. Simply because of everything else. And I know that the structure of the battle we're fighting. So the battle is the Khazarians against the Russians. The Khazarians are renamed as the WEF, and they've attacked the Russians. The Russians are doing well in defeating the Khazarians. They never win. The Khazarians are very bad at this shit. They're not very smart. Anyway, every time they get defeated, they reappear somewhere else, and that somewhere else attacks Russia. So Germany attacked Russia, Italy attacked Russia, France attacked Russia, all at the behest of the WEF, or whatever they were called in those ages, because they changed their name as they go forward. So they're current and edgy. And so this time, though, there's nowhere for them to go, right? So after the WEF is defeated, what are they going to do? Go to Antarctica? There's no country there are no people in Antarctica to come back and try and attack Russia. This is the last battle insofar as we can see. There's all kinds of weird ramifications here. There's all kinds of weird shit going on relative to space aliens involved in this, and it is a strange damn time with areas that we have no knowledge of. So we couldn't even speculate about them because we just have not got a clue at all that any of this stuff is even active in this current battle. But this is the Great War, and this is the resurgent great battle that I think will lead to a great revealing to the normies that's going to set us off in a really weird way.